Hey there, interesting. Oh no, I fucked up.
Should we start again?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This is kind of like what happened last night on the debate.
No.
If only Biden could have stopped and started again. This is Interesting Times. My name is Matt Moses, and I am here with...
Gideon Evans.
All right. Well, we did it.
Well, you're right. I'm going to get better from here. And I guess Biden got a little bit better as it went on. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. I had to walk away and not watch the whole thing. But he did have moments where he was fine, I would say.
Yeah, sort of almost fine. But some of the people who were, spinning that were trying to paint things in a positive way were saying it was a rough start but got better. I mean, that right. Narrative isn't really convincing. I mean, it's kind of a lie. It's I mean, everybody spins, but that's like not even believable. I mean, right? I
don't think so. I mean, that's just pure, that's spin, like you said. That's not the story here. The story is it was disastrous and he looked super duper old.
Yeah, and they came out, they said he had a cold. I mean, that's right. Not even, that doesn't explain. I mean, I do get, like, when I get a cold, sometimes I just kind of feel out of it, and I don't feel like I'm, like, functioning myself. So I suppose if you're, like, 81 or 82 and you get a cold, it could kind of, like... But the thing that not many people mentioned... because people talked about, like, the soft voice and the kind of not being able to put sentences together and getting lost. Those are bad enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing that disturbed me a lot was just, like, looking at his face was really, like, upsetting. Like,
right, with the hangdog kind of open mouth thing during
Well, the eyes, too, just, like, it really... I mean, God, it's so weird because the Republicans have been pushing this whole... senile thing, and I even wonder if they believed it 100%. Maybe they just thought it was a good thing to push.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, that look on his face, that like glazed over kind of like, and then the others, and I'll stop hogging the mic in a second, but I mean, the fact that they asked him how he thought he did, and he kind of thought things went okay, was also kind of a red flag for me.
Oh, I didn't see that. What happened? What'd you see?
I think just like either last night or this morning, he went to a diner.
Right.
And they were like, what did you think of the debate? And he was like, I think we did fine. And it's like, the people that go crazy never feel like they're going crazy. And the people that are like losing their, people are, I don't know. I mean, I guess he had to say that.
Right. I mean, you have to say that, but yeah, it would have been a better answer to sort of acknowledge, like, I had a rough time tonight. I was off my game, but yeah, like,
I think people would want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, he did acknowledge it today in his speech today. Did you see? He actually was pretty good overall. Like, but it still
at a campaign.
At a campaign event. And he did go out last night, too. He went out last night, like you were saying. Like, this guy has to let him sleep. Anyway.
I know, seriously, let Joe sleep. But the thing is, at a campaign stop, you're just reading the prompter.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I know. Because he didn't, I mean, beyond the vibes and the performance... Even his, like, he didn't have a good story to tell. He didn't communicate even like the basic stuff. He didn't really land in a big, I mean, maybe some of them kind of landed, but there was no like narrative whatsoever, which I wonder to that. I'm like, are even the people in his corner doing their jobs? Or maybe they are doing their jobs, but he just can't synthesize all that information and get it out in front of people. I honestly thought for the longest time that this was overblown, the age thing.
I did too.
Yeah.
And I thought it was unfair, and I thought, like, there are plenty of 40-year-olds that are less adept than an 80-year-old, and that it was kind of ageist.
Right.
But,
well, especially we saw that people were saying it, and then we saw him do the State of the Union, and he was improvising and, sparring with people in the audience, Republicans, and that made him look very on top of things.
Do you think something like this can pass and he could have a better day, like 3 days from now?
Yeah. I my guess is that maybe I don't know. This comes and goes, I guess. Whatever he has. I don't think he's...
You have a bad day and a good day.
I don't think he's actually senile.
He may have the start of cognitive decline.
Right. I guess there's a difference between being senile and having some cognitive decline. Yeah. I don't know what the gradation is. But he didn't seem senile, I wouldn't say. But he was not on the ball. And I was like, this is a nightmare.
He seemed a little bit like, I don't know where I am a little bit.
Oh, really? I don't think I got...
Did you not feel that way?
I didn't feel that, but maybe I didn't watch long enough because I came and went. I was like...
Or maybe he was like, I don't know where my thoughts are going. Maybe he just lost track of his words.
Well, that definitely happened really, really badly one time.
Yeah, at the beginning, that was terrible.
And he wasn't even able to sort of, come back from it. Which, I don't know, I feel like that kind of stuff can happen to me, even.
Absolutely.
But
you would think the beginning is where you're your best, and then you may slip up later. Like, if you're prepared...
Right.
You're gonna know like the first two questions.
Right. And the thing is also, if that happens, then you compensate for it and everything else is great. You know?
Right.
Go ahead.
He didn't even say like, sorry about that. Like, I don't know, maybe you're not supposed to say that, but in a weird way you kinda want him to acknowledge that. I don't know, maybe you don't. I don't know. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it would have been better to acknowledge it more. And I mean, he acknowledged it in the speech today that he's not as good a debater as he once was.
Right.
But, when all this was happening, my mind went back to this Ezra Klein column. I guess it was maybe his podcast, but I was reading this, and he had it back in February of this year, just saying we can do better than Joe Biden, and he was talking about his age, and there was a ton of blowback that he got from people saying, this is ridiculous, you're buying into the Republican narrative, and I felt somewhat along that line. I always thought it was overblown and it was foolish, but beyond anything, I thought it was foolish because just the benefit loss analysis, giving up the incumbency is such a huge risk, right?
Nothing is without risk.
No, but now I think he was right. I think he saw something that maybe, I don't know why more people weren't talking about it. That are insiders. It feels like, have people been hiding this from us, and other people know that this is a real issue? They must, right?
Oh, maybe. Here's a conspiracy theory I have.
I love it.
It went to my mind while I was watching, and I was like, the people who work with him, know what his state of mind is and what his like abilities are, right? Because they see him every day.
I'd hope. Yeah.
You would think. How could you not? If you're working with him every day, like he has some rough moments, and that's probably why they don't do too many like interviews with the mainstream press, right?
It's a good point.
But here's my theory, and you tell me if I'm wacka. What is it? Crazy?
Wackadoo?
Yeah, wackadoo. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So they started getting worried about him. Mm-hmm. He's declining. They're like, oh shit, Joe is like not doing too well. Yeah. Let's put the debate earlier than any other presidential election, because if he's going to fail and he's going to have a hard time and it's going to be a disaster, let it be in June, not in October.
I mean, brilliant move.
Right? I mean, wouldn't that be smart if there's a huge risk that he's going to shit the bed or whatever,
Yeah, I mean, people were saying that sort of at the time it happened, that it seemed like Biden won on this because it would make the debates less important, and that was their move. And I think it certainly has. I mean, look, I don't know that many non-politics people are really steeped in this at all. It's, it's almost July 4th. People are in that state of mind, certainly. We're always in that state of mind out here in California.
New York state of mind.
Oh, right.
The New York Times, the Daily News, right?
I know. Yeah, that's the New York state of mind. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And, but the weird thing is, I mean, what's gonna happen? I mean...
Well, yeah, I feel like last night it was like all options are on the table. And now I feel like today it's like they're tamping that down. That's not going to happen.
Who's tamping it down?
I don't know. The newspapers, the talking heads,
right.
the insiders, I guess. But there's got to be a lot of other insiders. Hillary Clinton's got to be on the phone, right? Everybody's picking up that horn today and being like, what should we do?
Oh, are you suggesting that Hillary Clinton could step in?
No, never. Okay. Are you kidding me? Oh, my gosh.
That would be bad.
She probably shouldn't even go to the convention, honestly. Sorry, Hillary fans. I was a supporter. But
could it be that there are people, they're tamping it down for the media, but there are people that are seriously discussing having like an open convention and plotting that he can't be the nominee?
I think there must be. That must be going on.
I mean, yeah.
But, you brought it back. I think your conspiracy theory is correct, as I think I've communicated already. But what's interesting about that, too, is that the people tasked with getting him elected or with winning with winning the presidency for the Democrats are the same people who don't want to let go of that power themselves, probably.
Right,
the people who are closest to him want him to win.
Right.
They're not thinking about the party or
so
or the country. I mean, they are, but yeah.
So when Biden's like, I'm not dropping out, to some degree, his assistants and the people around him are like, good, because then I can keep my job.
They must be. I can't see.
Well, it depends on like whether they care about the country or their jobs.
Yeah. But, I think it would be not that hard to reason yourself into thinking that he was still the best option.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you can still make that case if just looking at one bad night.
Right. I don't necessarily believe that anymore. But
what? That it was one bad night?
Oh, no. Well, yeah. I don't necessarily believe that he's the best option anymore, but I can see,
don't either.
The way somebody who has to believe that, it wouldn't be such a leap to believe so. But what do you think? So do you think he should step down? Let's put the question.
I mean, I was so down. I get why people are panicking and going there. And I like Biden a lot. I have supported him and like defended him for a while. And I was really shocked by how bad he looked last night. That was beyond a bad night. The expression on his face.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it started recently, too. I don't think this was... I think Republicans started saying it a long time ago. So maybe it was bubbling up a long while ago. But I only noticed it... Honestly, it was a couple of weeks ago that I got concerned because there's some Instagram ad where he and Obama are standing side by side asking for money. And he just looks kind of like he's propped up. And Obama speaks, very well. And then Joe is just kind of like... I don't know, like arms at his side, very cardboard, very wooden, and it's like this doesn't look good. And they're putting this out.
He doesn't look like the Joe Biden we all know and love.
No. I mean, he's
yeah. And speaking of his like the people around him, the Daily Beast wrote that like some of them checked LinkedIn or updated their resumes. I'm not kidding. I don't know if this is legit or if that has been verified, but...
Wow, that is believable.
Yeah, and not too smart if you're those people.
That's true. That's true. But if you watch Veep, I mean, that's what would happen, right?
Right. I am. Actually, I haven't watched Veep, which I should. But now, real life is much more ridiculous than anything anybody can write.
It's a very Veepy. So yeah, I would say I would be happy to see him step down, but there's a lot of.
You mean step down from the campaign?
No, from the campaign. Like, I don't think he should step down from the presidency. I mean, by all, But it's like then there's so many big questions that come after that, like who's going to step in. So to me, the question of whether he not steps down, it also is reliant upon who are these, lever pullers of power behind the scenes. Are they going to be able to coalesce around an answer here? Are they going to be able to agree, or is it just going to be total madness and not be able to agree on who takes the mantle? I mean, ideally, it would be getting Joe to agree to step down and him deciding who the nominee will be, or at least who he says the nominee should.
If he doesn't agree, when is the convention? I mean, when would that happen?
Is it in August? I think it's in August.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. So that's pretty close to the election. So if people want time for a new candidate, if that really is a possibility, I kind of feel like it's not really a possibility. That it's probably too. I think the convention, maybe they could choose a new one.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Biden himself is going to just step down on his own.
Right. I think they could only do it at the convention.
I mean, he could. Yeah, right. He could step down from being. I mean, I guess he could. They say he could release his delegates, right?
Right.
So he could do it earlier, I suppose. But then they would still have to decide the not. You're right. They'd have, even if he steps down and he releases his delegates, you'd still have to wait for the convention to see who they vote for, right?
I think that is the case. But that's why it's like if he, stepped down and also anointed whoever he thinks it should be, I think that would be the best way for it to happen, and without insanity.
And he could not, if he stepped down and said, I want Gavin Newsom to step in, Kamala Harris is going to be frigging pissed off.
I know.
And then he could say, I want Kamala Harris, and then it could go to the convention, and then the delegates could choose Gavin Newsom, right? And then she'd have to just say, oh, well, I didn't win. Or maybe they'd choose her.
Yeah, I mean, anything could happen. I called my grandmother before this, who's about to turn 96. I think I said the wrong age when we talked about her
last time. Yeah,
but she's a big, political junkie. Hates Trump so much. But I was just interested to get her take, and she was of two minds about it because she saw Biden's speech today and thought, he did well. But she said she would also be happy to see an open convention. And she talked about how the conventions used to be so exciting because, what did she say? I wrote it down. She was like, there was none of this baloney of the primaries. This is what she put it. It's just that there was more drama to it. And she remembers when Kennedy got it. There are things to be said, actually, for backroom dealings. Surprisingly, they can actually help shore up democracy in some instances.
Right.
But that there's some of that. But it does seem also like a terrible idea that the people didn't get a say. So there has to be some say. But that's
what I saw on former Twitter, that someone was like, if somebody else steps in, nobody will have voted for the person running for president unless it's Kamala Harris.
Yeah, right. Well, because she's on the ballot already. It's not like, could he still ditch her and get someone new?
I don't know. I don't know how. Do the delegates vote for the vice president also? Well, that's the way it used to happen in the first few years of the country.
Right.
That you
totally
could be
separate.
right. Your opponent would essentially become your vice president, and they hated each other, the president and the vice president.
It's a crazy setup.
And what would it? So, How come nobody's talking about Buttigieg? Because I think he's very...
Who? Oh,
Pete
yeah.
Buttigieg, remember
Oh,
him?
yeah, of course.
The Indiana mayor, Mayor Pete.
I guess I see his name so much, but I don't hear it spoken that often.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so great. Love him.
Well, he goes on Fox, and he's very effective on Fox. Well, then Newsom does, too.
Newsom, I mean, did you see Newsom's...
Didn't he debate somebody?
Sean Hannity, he had an interview with. And
interesting.
He just destroyed Sean Hannity, and Sean Hannity is like really well versed in that kind of setup. Obviously,
but do people?
And they couldn't even cut
Newsom?
it to make.
He seems like a bulldog, but I don't know if people actually think he's likable.
I feel like a lot of people don't like him, but I also wonder if that's just because people are like, "Oh, California, he's so California. The country's not going to like California," which I don't know, maybe. And then I think plenty of the more left maybe don't think he's far left enough, but he's pretty left. He is California after all. Be. But then I think that might just be like, oh, look, he's this, tall white guy who looks like a president. Like we need something new, and I get that, but I think ultimately the presidency comes down to vibes, right? People have been talking about vibes a lot, and we're in the vibes session. And I used to think of it as like whoever the cooler candidate is wins, but vibes is a much better descriptor, I think. And I think
vibes being like how they make you feel, basically, or just what you can, just that they have a good thing going on.
I think that's it. It's just like they have. So the question is Gavin Newsom, is he liked by the party or not? I mean, I would say clearly by some. California, huge state, right? But I think some people say he's too California, and that can't win the heartland, right? But that makes me think, well, I don't know. The people who wouldn't vote for someone because of California, are they going to vote for a Democrat anyway? And I think some people maybe think he's not liberal enough. I don't know precisely why, but he's not. He's pretty far left, I think, but not insanely so. So maybe that's why, or maybe it's just partly because he is this tall. I guess good looking. Yeah,
you
tall,
can say
good looking. Can I say it? Tall, handsome white man who looks like a president, right? Like who looks like central casting. So, I mean, that's a reason to not like him, I suppose, but it's also a reason to be like, hey, let's pick the guy with the president vibes, because I do think that vibes is what wins the presidency.
Who would you rather have a beer with, they say?
Yeah, that's another, yeah.
Now, one thing Trump voters might like about Gavin Newsom. Yes. He was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle. The best is yet to come. Remember her?
Oh my gosh. I know.
Like for 5 years or something.
Yeah.
So maybe she could be his vice president. Well, no, they divorced.
Well, now she's with Trump's son, right?
Right.
Are they married? I don't think they're married.
Don Jr.
Don Jr. I know. My gosh. What an interesting character she is. I don't know what to make of that, but
no.
It is interesting that, power, it goes beyond anything else for a lot of politicians.
Totally.
Maybe all.
Well, this is going to be very... nobody kind of... Even though it was always a possibility, it's kind of like we're all shocked. It's kind of... it's thrown this election into a whole new direction, and I think it's not good for the Democrats.
It's not good. I mean, I think if there was someone really clear that he could go to that could step in, but I don't think Kamala is that person right now. I mean, and I'm a fan of hers, but she gets a lot of hate. I mean, I think a lot of that hate is her being a woman. She gets a lot of undeserved hate.
A black woman, yeah.
Yeah, and a black woman too, of course, yeah.
Well, I wonder if she would agree to have somebody be the presidential candidate and she would stay as the vice president candidate. But you could see her not liking that idea.
I could.
What's the point of choosing someone to be a heartbeat away, and then the election is almost here, and you have a choice to replace the president, and you don't use the vice president. It's kind of strange, but it's more about who can get elected at this point rather than who could do the job.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, I don't know. I think Biden probably chose her partly because it helped him win over certain constituencies, I would imagine, right? That's usually why you choose a VP, but I don't know if she has enough of that constituency now that would fight for her, you know?
True. I am sorry about my dog ruining the end of this podcast. But
oh, it's no problem. Hi, George.
George does whatever George wants. Maybe George wants to be the replacement for Joe Biden.
I mean, you know, he has a certain charm, and at least he's speaking up for himself, right?
That's true.
He has a narrative. He
doesn't have a soft voice like Biden did last night.
There you go. That's it. That's the one. He doesn't.
It should be George. Although George is not. Although I was going to say George isn't 35 years old, but in dog years, maybe almost. No, I don't think he's eligible. Oh well.
Ah, man.
I don't think the Constitution allows it.
Constitution, man.
Constitution. That's what Vance DeGeneres always did that. He used to always go, democracy, shamocracy. It's really funny.
It's classic.
All right, Matt. Before my dog ruins more of the show, I guess we'll say goodbye. But there's going to be a lot to talk about, clearly.
Yeah, indeed.
It's just getting more interesting, as they say.
Ugh, you're right.
Ay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.